I'm Andreas Hamberger, and this is the Hamberger Report, where I cover AI governance, enterprise architecture, and the technology decisions that actually matter to the people who have to make them. If you find this useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. Now let's get into it. That is the share of organizations worldwide that McKinsey classifies as AI high performers. Companies where more than 5% of earnings before interest and tax is directly attributable to artificial intelligence. Not 6% of technology companies, 6% of all organizations surveyed across 105 countries and every major industry. The other 94% have adopted AI. They have not yet made it work. I'm Andreas Hamberger. This is the Hamberger Report, where I cover AI governance and what it means for the professionals who have to make it work. Parts 7, 8, and 9 of this series have been building to a single question: what separates the organizations that capture genuine value from AI from the ones still waiting? McKinsey's November 2025 State of AI survey, covering 1,993 participants across 105 countries, identifies 5 practices. None of them are about model selection. All of them are about organizational design. First, ambition. High performers are 3.6 times more likely to pursue transformational change with AI rather than incremental efficiency gains. While 80% of all organizations cite efficiency as their primary AI objective, high performers add growth and innovation to the brief. They are not automating the old business, they are building a different one. Second, workflow redesign. 55% of high performers have fundamentally redesigned their workflows around AI, compared with 20% of everyone else. That 2.8 times multiplier was the strongest predictor of financial impact across all 25 attributes tested. High performers do not bolt AI onto existing processes. They use AI as the reason to ask whether the process should exist at all. Third, leadership ownership. High performers are 3 times more likely to have senior leaders who demonstrate personal ownership of AI initiatives, including using AI tools themselves daily, and holding direct reports accountable for AI-driven outcomes. Fourth, budget commitment. More than a third of high performers allocate over 20% of their digital budgets to AI. But budget without workflow redesign correlates with failure as often as success. And fifth, human in the loop by design. 65% of high performers have built human validation into their workflow architecture, compared with 23% of other organizations. Not a policy document on the intranet. A decision point embedded in every high-stakes process. This is what the Heaven Vector looks like in practice. Not a vision, not a forecast, but an operational model that 6% of organizations are running right now. There is another trajectory, and a rocket named Kairos 3 explains it. On the 5th of March 2026, a rocket built by Space One was destroyed in flight at Japan's spaceport Kii, not by an external threat, not by structural failure, by its own safety system. At approximately 70 seconds into the Kairos 3 flight, the autonomous flight safety system detected what it classified as an anomaly and issued the termination command. Preliminary investigation data indicates the rocket's trajectory and performance were within normal parameters at the time. The system could not distinguish routine mechanical stress from a genuine safety event. It acted on an incomplete inference. It did exactly what it was designed to do. And the result was a destroyed rocket on a clear day. This is the Skynet Vector. Not a single malicious system. 1,000 small handoffs, each removing one layer of human judgment, each justified by speed or cost or competitive pressure. McKinsey's data shows that 51% of all organizations using AI reported at least one negative incident in the past 12 months. The most common category is not a breach, it is inaccuracy. An inaccuracy embedded in a chain of agents, each inheriting the output of the previous system without a verification step, compounds through every handoff. By the time the error surfaces, the chain has acted on it, reported on it, and in some cases acted on the report. 3 failure modes appear consistently in the incident record, bias amplification. In 2018, Amazon acknowledged it had scrapped an AI recruitment tool trained on 10 years of its own hiring decisions. The system had learned to downrank applicants from women-only colleges and to penalize resumes containing the word women's. The UK's 2020 A-level grading algorithm downgraded 39% of teacher-assessed grades, disproportionately affecting students from disadvantaged schools. The model was technically correct about aggregate patterns. It was wrong about individuals. Micro-maximization. On the 1st of August 2012, Knight Capital's automated trading system executed approximately 4 million trades in 45 minutes and accumulated a $7 billion position in 154 stocks. The firm lost $440 million before a human operator identified the problem. Each trade was optimizing its assigned objective. No single trade was wrong. The portfolio was destroyed. Accountability laundering. Australia's Robodebt program issued 470,000 wrongful debts by treating algorithmic flags as established debts. The algorithm flagged. The agency processed. The call center defended. No single node bore full responsibility for the outcome. The government subsequently repaid approximately $1.8 billion in settlements. Kairos 3 adds a fourth. The decision paradox. The system had data access, execution authority. The safety mechanism became the hazard. The question your board needs to answer is not whether your AI systems are designed correctly. It is whether there is a verification layer between inference and action before the action becomes irreversible. On the 1st of March 2026, 3 Amazon Web Services data centers in the Gulf were struck by Iranian drones. 2 facilities in the UAE were directly hit. A third in Bahrain was damaged by a nearby strike. Within hours, 2 of 3 availability zones in the Central 1 region were offline. Banking applications stopped responding. Enterprise software went dark. This was not a cyber attack. It was a kinetic military strike. The cloud, that reassuring abstraction of infinite scalability and geographic invisibility, turned out to be a set of specific buildings in specific locations, vulnerable to specific munitions. Here is the irony. Those AWS facilities existed in the Gulf partly because governments had mandated it. Data localization requirements had compelled cloud providers to build physical infrastructure locally. The sovereignty frameworks designed to protect national data were exactly what concentrated critical compute in a conflict zone. The policy created the vulnerability. This is the Splinternet argument. The internet is no longer a borderless architecture. Nations now assert sovereignty through data localization statutes, local compute mandates, and regulatory frameworks that treat digital infrastructure as an extension of physical territory. The result is a fragmented digital landscape. Not one internet, but dozens of jurisdictionally bounded ecosystems, each with its own rules about where data may live, who may access it, and under whose law it operates. Digital sovereignty has 3 distinct layers. Most organizations have examined one. The first is physical. Where do the servers sit? When multiple availability zones in a single region go offline simultaneously, the standard multi-AZ resilience model fails. The data was in the right country. The buildings were in the wrong neighborhood. The second is legal. Even with servers on your soil, the nationality of your cloud provider determines which jurisdiction's law can compel access to that data. The U.S. Cloud Act allows American authorities to compel access to data held by U.S. headquartered companies, regardless of where that data is physically stored. Legal analysis for New Zealand organizations is clear. Moving an AWS server from California to Auckland adds New Zealand law into the mix. It does not take America out of it. You gain a layer of protection. You do not achieve sovereignty. The third layer is architectural. As AI agents become capable of operating computers autonomously, the question shifts from where data is stored to who controls the inference layer. GPT-5.4, released in early March 2026, exceeded human expert performance on standardized computer use tasks. When an AI agent can browse, retrieve, synthesize, and act on your data without explicit human instruction at each step, data residency arguments premised on storage location become insufficient. The inference layer is now a sovereignty surface. The question is not whether your data is sovereign. The question is whether you know which sovereignty regime governs each layer of your stack, under what circumstances that regime can be overridden, and what your plan is when the infrastructure moves. The Heaven Vector requires 5 practices: ambition beyond efficiency, workflow redesign, leadership ownership, budget commitment, and human validation by design. The Skynet Vector is what happens when those practices are absent: unverified chains, local optimization without portfolio-level oversight, accountability distributed until it disappears. And the Splinternet is the context in which both vectors play out, a fragmented digital landscape where the sovereignty of your data depends on which buildings your provider built, under which country's law, and whether an AI agent can traverse it without asking. The organizations building toward the Heaven Vector treat each of these as connected. Sovereignty agility is not a compliance project. It is an architectural commitment. Know which jurisdiction governs each layer of your stack. Design for portability, so you can move when the infrastructure moves. Classify your data by sensitivity and route it accordingly, and make the contractual rights explicit, not assumed. The governance that makes AI work is the same governance that makes sovereignty real, not a policy document, a decision point embedded in every high-stakes process, a verification layer between inference and action, a human who can say stop. Deloitte's January 2026 survey of 3,235 leaders confirms the connection from a different angle. Enterprises where senior leadership actively shapes AI governance achieve significantly greater business value than those delegating the work to technical teams alone. Governance done properly is not a constraint on AI value, it is a precondition for it. 3 questions for your board before this week is out. Does your AI deployment include genuine workflow redesign or just workflow augmentation? Is there a verification layer between every AI agent's inference and its execution authority? Not a policy that says there should be one. A technical control. And do you know which jurisdiction's law governs each layer of your cloud stack? If you cannot answer all 3, you are in the 94%. The good news, so is almost everyone else. The path from 94 to 6 is documented. Workflow redesign. Governance by design. Sovereignty as an architecture decision, not a procurement tick box. The organizations that understand that are the ones that make AI work. If you are navigating AI governance in your organization, subscribe to the Hamberger Report for daily insights. That is the Hamberger Report for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. You will find links to everything we covered in the description below. I am Andreas Hamberger, and I will see you tomorrow.